Next we have is Wendy Sue Johnson, speaking against.
My name's Wendy Sue Johnson. I'm from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I'd like to start off by thanking Senator Smith for having the foresight to have a committee hearing in the 09-10 session for the fair process. And I know one of his greatest regrets in life is that he couldn't convince his leadership to look into the crystal ball and understand how the power grab, how insidious the power grab would be in 2011. And so that question was asked earlier. As a former high school social studies teacher, that was my first career, the main theme in history is those without power try to gain power, and those with power try to keep it. And oftentimes using any means necessary. And I think that his leadership underestimated that back in 09 and 10. And so here we are. Unlike some others who had to look up gerrymandering in the dictionary when they decided to run for office, I did not have to do that in 2011 or 2013, as Senator Cullen indicated, because I had been a history teacher and knew when we were all in the streets for Act 10 that Act 43 was going to be just as bad. And that turned out to be true. So when Bill Whitford called me out of the blue and introduced himself and asked me to join as one of the plaintiffs on the gerrymandering lawsuit and read this obscure law review article by Nick Stephanopoulos, I thought, sure, why not? Even though I've just opened my own business and my husband didn't want me to alienate all of the, half of the people in town from coming to me for that. But I understood how insidious gerrymandering is. And I, like others, are under no illusion that you are going to listen to the will of the people. You know that the Wisconsin Constitution starts off that the government exists, derives its power from the consent of the governed. You know that, and you don't care. You don't care on what people have to say, and I'm so grateful for those who've stuck it out through this very long day, and those of you who've returned. But there was a lot of empty seats at points in this hearing, and a lot of eyes turned down when people were speaking truth. When Ann from Appleton was talking to you about fairness you learned as a child. You know when Sachin told you that you would never allow your teenage kids to play a football game in your front yard against the elementary kids. You know that. You know the sports analogy is wonderful. You know you would never allow the NFL to let the Vikings start on our 25-yard line and make the Packers start on their own 25-yard line, because that's not fair. But you don't care. Why don't you care? Because you want to keep power. I cannot understand why a $50,000 a year job is so worth selling your soul. You don't care that the Marquette poll tells you what your constituents want. You don't care that the 55 county resolutions tell you what the people want. You don't care that people have gone to referendum and voted 75%, 80% to tell you what they want. You don't care because your grab for power is more important than all of those things. You do not have the consent of the governed. You do not have it. We know it. You know it. You know it when you look in the mirror. And I don't know why you listen to that little boss that hovers over your shoulder telling you what to do when he sits here and lies to you about those maps being constitutional. I sat in that 4-day trial just down the road in the federal courthouse with 3 judges, 2 who were appointed by Republicans. And I listened to your Tad and your Adam and your Joe and their Joe aggressive map and Joe, super aggressive map. I listened to your expert that you hired, Keith Gaddy, who no longer does the work because he's so disgusted about how his work has been used to rig maps. You know it. I know it. Your boss who sat here knows it, but I do not understand why that little man holds the power that you should have. You should be responsible to your constituents. You know why? Because you know you can't win. When he says you have better candidates, I take that as a personal affront because I know that I am more educated and more informed because I did not have to look up gerrymandering in the dictionary after I decided to run for an office in 2018, after my party rigged the map in 2011. I didn't say that on NPR. I sat in that federal courthouse and listened as people described thousands of maps. You heard it today, 1 million maps, and only 30 were as rigged as yours. You know that. And the only reason that you won't do the right thing is because you're afraid of losing. That's the only reason. Because you know you can't compete with good candidates. You know you don't work harder than the Democratic candidates. You know that you can't win on your ideas. Sometimes you can, but not every time. And you're afraid of losing power. And so I know that you are not going to do the right thing, so I'm not even going to ask you to do it. But you know, when you look in the mirror, some others have phrased it that way, you know at those listening sessions when people show up and you don't listen to them, you know. You know when you look down instead of making eye contact at Ann. I know you know. We all know you know. And the sad thing is you pretend to be patriotic. A feeling of attachment and commitment to our country. Our country is nothing if it is not a representative democracy. If you think your need for power is more important than our democratic principles in this country, and you enjoy the partisanship, and you enjoy doing what your constituents do not want you to do, then you keep on supporting those gerrymandered maps.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the committee?
I just want to know what your T-shirt says.
Who voted for gerrymander?